coming
Yeah,
over.
he wanted
I got
to-
small ears, big head, so.
Yeah, it's not easy to fit that on your head, I noticed. But it sounded good the whole
Good.
time. Yeah.
I think Charlie and Charles adapted very well.
Yes, they did. Ready? Good morning. Welcome to Shift. Welcome to Pastor Eric Hoffer of Salem Lutheran. And we had a great morning. You delivered an awesome sermon.
Thank you very much.
It was very good.
Thank you.
And if you're just watching Shift, behind us is our Vacation Bible School theme called Stellar. So the reason we have Pastor Eric here is that he is the pastor of Salem Lutheran, our partner in outreach. And you described a little bit about it, but do you want to tell us more about the partnership?
Yes. It's still unfolding, but basically it started with a random set of relationships over the years. During seminary and after seminary, I spent some time at Redeemer Lutheran in North Minneapolis that Trinity's had some connection to in the past with the Christmas store and a few other things. And so I was like, oh yeah, I got to meet a few folks from Trinity that way. And when I was called to Salem a little under 5 years ago, I was able to continue to talk with Pastor Kelly Chapman from Redeemer, and he helped connect me with more folks from Trinity for some of the neighborhood outreach and projects we had. Ben Benson was helpful in doing some of the construction hands-on stuff we had. And then when we decided to host the Christmas store, Jill was really helpful in getting that going. And then when Pastor Adam was called to Trinity, we thought, okay, this is just too many sets of relationships because it just so happens I have Charles Allen as my tax guy. My family, specifically my mother, has known Kirk Nelson through work for 30 years, 35 years. We didn't know each other, but my home congregation is where Pastor Ann spent years before coming here from Normandale Lutheran. So it's all sorts of random relationships that just felt like, I think the Spirit's up to something here. So we had some good conversations. And then we thought, okay, what's it look like to have a partnership where we can start to craft mutuality, where each congregation feels like they are bringing something, a strength to the table, and having the needs that we have, the growth areas that we have, met in that relationship as well. As any good relationship, it's both directions.
Right.
So what we've had that be a lot of Trinity showing up at Salem to be in relationship with our neighbors, to help at the state fair, to serve barbecues for our community dinner. We just made some aprons, and this last week, is this me or should I do something different? Okay. And so, yeah, it's really getting going, and this is one more expression of that relationship, and trying to figure out ways that we can also meet on a neutral site so that the hospitality is both directions at any given time. But it's really, really going well so far, and it's been such a joy to just spend time together and in service, but time, casual, fun, prayer, worship, and everything in between.
Tell us a little about Salem congregation.
Yeah, Salem has been in the Weber-Camden neighborhood of North Minneapolis for 128 years now.
You have us beat. We're coming on 91.
See, you'll catch up someday. Maybe not. Thank you, Mark. The light says it's on. Is it on?
Probably just a volume.
There
There
we
you
go. Look
go.
at that. So we've been in the neighborhood of Weber-Camden for 128 years, founded by Swedish immigrants. And over the years, Salem has experienced different waves of change as North Minneapolis has changed. So sometimes we really resemble the population changes in our community, whether that's race or economics, and sometimes it's people commuting in from the suburbs. Lately, I'd say we're rekindling our neighborhood relationships, and we have been for a decade or so. It's not brand new, but it can be really hard because our neighborhood has a relatively high turnover. It's mostly renters, mostly people living in poverty. But because of that, we found ways of building community quickly. And so Salem has valued hospitality, especially around food, for pretty much its whole life. As I briefly mentioned in a plug at the beginning of the sermon, Salem has hosted a state fair dining hall for about 75 years. We're one of 2 churches who still has a dining hall at the state fair. It's Hamlin United Methodist, who just celebrated 100 years, and we are about to celebrate our 75th year at the state fair.
Some great egg coffee.
Yes, we are obviously we don't own Swedish egg coffee, but we are the ones who make it popular and famous and get in the paper. Because not too many people do it besides some Swedish and Norwegian grandmas here and there, And so because of our valuing of food, we also regularly host community meals. It has been monthly, and for the last 3 years now, it's been weekly. And God has been so good in bringing people from the neighborhood, bringing volunteers, bringing funding to that ministry. And I don't know exactly what a miracle is, but it feels like a miracle that continues to not only survive, but thrive. And it's the primary way that we are in relationship with our neighbors. And it's increasingly providing space for neighbors to be in relationship with each other, too. That's the special part. People were waiting in line to get the to-go meals, and all of a sudden, they started coming a half hour early because they didn't want to miss it. And they were waiting in line and just kind of became community together. And we thought, well, how can we celebrate that, lift that up, put tables down, give them something to eat or drink while they wait in line, ask them a question that they can discuss amongst each other. And that's been a big part of who Salem is now as well.
What are the conversations like? You talked about developing community quickly. How do you do that?
That's a good question. So the questions are 2 things help us figure out those conversations and questions. The first one is to focus on assets, not needs. All too often, especially
Think about that. Yeah, focus on assets, not needs.
Because especially in communities like the extended part of North Minneapolis where we live, people are always talking about a lack, about scarcity, about there's not enough. And there is so many gifts abounding in our community, in our neighbors. And so actually leading with questions about passions, about skills, so questions like, what do you love about your neighborhood? Assuming that. Now, people will still talk about challenges and struggles and ideas and complaints because we're people, but to ask a question that focuses on a gift, a strength, an asset is a fundamental way of changing the conversation. And that is really exciting. And then the other part of it is asking a question that maybe has just a little bit of tension built into it, but good tension, because tension is how you grow, right? So a question like, let's say you're at a crossroads in your life right now, what is that crossroads? And that can be a small thing or a big thing, but it forces a level of reflection and vulnerability, or it invites one, because no one has to answer a question. That's why it's a question, Yeah. But to make space and to listen deeply for a question that goes a little bit deeper and is never a yes or no question. Because yes or no questions get yes or no answers. And we want to open up conversations. And the last way that I think that works well for those asset-based, sometimes slightly tension-filled questions is to invite a story, because people got stories, man. But we're rarely invited to tell those stories and to make space for them, to celebrate them and hear them. And so either asking a question that invites a story or specifically saying, hey, tell me a story about that. Or if they give you an answer that's a sentence long, ask, tell me a story about a time that was true. And that really helps people be open and vulnerable. And sometimes we have to do that ourselves too, not just put that on our neighbor to hold that tension, but to be willing to be in that tense place ourselves.
So I want to look at that crossroads question. So what do I say to you? It's like, are you at a crossroads in your life?
Yeah, that's a good point, because if it's a conversation that you're not already in the middle of,
right,
that's a hard first question. The tension
right,
questions,
it wouldn't be the first.
Maybe it's a second question.
Yeah.
Or you already know the person a little bit, and
Yeah.
it helps deepen a relationship.
Yeah.
But I would say, I would phrase it as we all go through ups and downs in our life and have times where we're faced with an important decision or a crossroads. What might that be in your life right now?
Well, I'll tell you. Right. It's like,
because I think we're kind of trying to navigate this way or that way all sorts of times in our life, and so kind of not making it a little bit more universal has helped make it a little less awkward.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't answer those questions depending on the moment and context, and that's okay.
Right. That is okay.
Yeah.
And to probably share a little about yourself is always good as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
If you haven't introduced yourself and the first thing you do is ask a question like that, good luck,
Yeah.
I won't answer a question like, I love those questions. I'm not answering it if I don't know you or know why you're asking me this question,
Yeah, they get up and leave with their plate. Yeah.
But that actually brings up an important point, is that so many neighbors to churches are used to church people asking them questions with an angle.
Yeah.
There's going to be an invitation or a catch at some point, and they're ready to expect that. And it takes a long time to build a type of trust where they're not expecting anything besides relationship. And that doesn't mean people don't sometimes come to worship or to volunteer.
Right.
And in fact, some of our best volunteers with the community meal are neighbors who came to receive the meal, and through conversation with them, they wanted to contribute. And they become stalwart volunteers. Every single dang week, Carmen and Greg are there. And they are the primary leaders of the dinner now because that's what they wanted. But we didn't ask them to do that off the bat. They just showed up and we listened.
Wow. And Carmen was here last year at
yeah,
Summer
for one
Nights.
of the Summer Nights, yeah.
And she was volunteering in the
Yes, she
kitchen.
was.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So she originally came for the meal.
Yeah, and she's a unique, don't count on a Carmen showing up all the time because there are not a whole lot of them. But she came in wanting to eat, but also off the bat asking, how can I volunteer? The first time we met her, she's like, this is where that meal happens, right? And we're like, yeah, it's downstairs. She's like, well, who do I talk to about helping? I'm like, oh my gosh, are you I started actually calling her, and I think, Jill, do you remember this? We called her an angel for our community, for Salem, because it's like, where did you come from? How did you? And the other gift of Carmen, she has many, but one other gift is that she showed up that way unexpectedly, asking to help, and also she is embedded in our neighborhood. She knows everybody. I swear she knows everybody and has a story to tell about them. And so when you are in relationship with somebody like that, that's a shortcut way to be in relationship with your whole community,
Right. Oh, that's excellent. So Eric has another tie to Trinity, and that is that Pastor Kent Grosser was a mentor of yours.
Yes, Pastor Kent was my clergy coach when I was in my first call, and he was really helpful to kind of get my feet under me. And then when I was transitioning into my call to Salem, he was essential for helping have a really positive goodbye process that was life-giving and open. And yeah, I haven't seen him in a little while here, so I miss him. But
We miss him too,
yeah.
but we run into him sometimes
Good.
because he lives in the area.
yes,
So,
that's right.
yeah.
Next time one of you sees him, tell him to email me. He's got my info. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I know from that you were always interested in inner city ministry. So why?
Yeah, I think I'm from Edina originally, so I'm a suburban kid who didn't really venture into the city very much, and my dad is from the country. He's from outside of Wilmer. He's from the town of Candy, Ohio, not just the county. So, and my mom is from Bloomington originally. So I'm a pretty suburban kid, but what I found was during my time at Redeemer Lutheran in the lower part of North Minneapolis, I experienced the type of clarity of vision, of vitality, and a church being a neighborhood hub in a way that saw the entire neighborhood as part of a parish, basically. And that kind of posture and perspective on ministry, specifically as a pastor, but as a congregation as well, was really manna from heaven for me at that time as I was doing some discernment around, well, where am I called? Am I called to faith-based nonprofit work, to chaplaincy? Am I called to be a pastor in a congregation? My internship was a lovely place, but it sapped some of my energy for pastoral ministry. And Redeemer, specifically in the Harrison neighborhood of North Minneapolis, breathed new life into me. That God did that through Pastor Kelly, through that community. And part of what I love is the city, specifically inner city, is almost like its own close-knit small town. People know each other, and so when you show up at events, when you show up in community, you're part of a community that knows each other, and being a pastor in that context is a really, really lovely gift. It also has all sorts of challenges where I go to the store, I drive down the road or bike down the road, and if somebody cuts me off and I want to have some road rage moment, they aren't my neighbor. So I better watch my tongue, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that can be found in a lot of different contexts. I don't think there's anything that special or unique about that, but that's been the way that in the places that I've experienced that type of community and opportunity. I happen to live about a mile from the church, which, you know, I think Pastor Adam lives less than a mile from here.
Yes, he does.
And when you're in this, you know, miles are different in the city too, you know, so like I'm walking or biking to the church most of the time through the community that we're serving, shopping there, talking to the post office, the mail carriers, and it's all part of being a pastor and neighbor at the same time. And that opportunity was such a gift to, because I was at a church in St. Louis Park, and we lived in North Minneapolis, and then almost 5 years ago, Salem's Call came open, and I was called there, and it's like, I get to be called into my neighborhood, where when I show up at an event, I'm not showing up as a pastor with an angle, but I'm showing up as a neighbor who also is a pastor in the community. Wow. And it just blossomed from there. I happened to be on the neighborhood organization board, and always trying to build more relationships and be present to our neighbors, and then also receive so much hospitality over and over again. The other part of it for me is I really love diverse communities, especially for living and being in my neighborhood. Not that we are the most diverse part of the city or metro area necessarily, and Salem is a predominantly white congregation still, but the times that I've experienced the most growth and being filled by Spirit, it is in diverse communities, whether that's economically, gender expressions and race and ethnicity. It's that diversity that has helped me grow so much in my perspective as a person, as a Christian, and as a pastor. So I gravitate towards communities that embody that. And I've come to learn that can be embodied a whole lot of different ways as well.
Isn't his energy just infectious? I mean,
sorry if I'm talking too much.
No,
You ask good questions,
No,
so.
thank you. Well, there are pastors who would be like, I need to live a little bit of distance away because I need kind of a break. And I'm not hearing that
days,
from
though.
you.
There are days.
Oh, I'm sure there are. Yeah, I'm sure there are. I wanted to get to the audience and see if anyone has some questions to further open the conversation.
Hi, Eric. It's Terry Allen.
Hello,
Charlesburg.
Terry.
Nice
Yes.
to see you. You talked about quotes from your father. I'd be curious if you had any quotes from your mother.
To be honest, my mom worked so dang much growing up that I don't have a whole lot of quotes. I have some moments that she was present and she was always incredibly loving, but she was the main breadwinner who worked long, long hours at Lutheran Brotherhood and then Thrivent, and that's how she knows Kirk. And she will admit this, not as quotable as my father. Probably more wise, but in a very understated kind of way, I would say, my mom, Cindy. And so she really led a lot by example. And so the way that she opened her heart to people in our family, but then new people, that is what I predominantly remember from my childhood, and seeing her do that and showing she worked so hard, and also she was so quiet in her boldness, because she is a bold, pioneering woman in a business, working for a company for over 30 years and working her way up in management at Thrivent. That is incredibly wonderful and worth celebrating, but she's so humble about it that I don't remember the pithy things that she ever said, Yeah.
What did she do at Thrivent?
She actually did a lot of different things. She started first doing computer science stuff, and then quickly eventually got into the fraternal side, the congregational and organizational relationships, and that's where she really thrived for a long time.
Oh, wow.
Is that right, Kirk, right? Yes, good.
Yeah, Kirk would know. And then Terry is a friend of Eric's mom. So we'll talk to Terry at the end
Like I
if
said,
you want more.
so many random, beautiful
I know there
connections
are.
here.
It's
Yeah.
incredible. So do you want to talk a little bit about upcoming opportunities for us to be involved?
Awesome. Yes, thank you. Well, the first one is another plug for Summer Nights. On July 12th, so the Barbecue and Blues night, 3 of Salem's bluegrass players who play blues and bluegrass, we have once a month, every 4th Sunday, is our Roots and Wings Bluegrass service on our Sunday service. And 3 of our musicians, including one who's exclusively a musician professionally, are leading the music that day. So come to that. Some Salem folks will be here, and also those musicians. And then one of our Salem members, who's a big cook, including smoking and grilling meat, is going to be participating in the cooking that day as well. So show up at your own event on the 12th of July.
Yeah.
And you get to be in relationship with Salem folks that way.
Can I quick intersperse something? So the barbecue part is we invite, smoke, grill, barbecue to bring servings for 20 people, and then we have tastings. And we'll have a panel of judges, and they will also have a sort of a
How does one get to become a
competition.
judge?
So it's a really fun night, and we are so pleased that you're participating. All right, your next event.
But I'm serious. I want to throw my hat in the ring of being a judge on that. So please let me know.
Well, I'll talk to the
better question.
I'll talk to corporate.
Who do I bribe for a spot on that judge
Well,
table?
you maybe are talking to a person
Yeah,
that
I
could
got
be
you.
of influence. Okay.
Anyway, the next thing is on August 1st, which is National Night Out, so some neighborhoods are doing lots of things, but Salem is hosting a barbecue as our community dinner on August 1st. And that is a big to-do. It's the equivalent of the barbecue that I mentioned during the sermon. So we're gonna have extra food, extra neighbors, community organizations, and we're trying to maybe also get a bouncy house and some other games for kids, and just have a big, big party. And that would be a wonderful opportunity to come and help serve, meet neighbors, grill, meet Salem volunteers, get to know our Weber Camden community, but we kind of are just saying like 4 to 7, but if you come for a part of that, that's also wonderful. Rachel from Salem has been here before.
Yes, she has.
And she is coordinating that, and then I think the point person here would be to talk to Jill. So that would be the next really great opportunity, especially for a neighborhood-focused event. And then lastly, come volunteer at the State Fair Dining Hall. We don't have the sign-up posted, but that's coming, I think, in this next week. We'll have a sign-up form for picking your shift, and it is long shifts, but it's a really great opportunity to be in a kind of intense, close-knit community of volunteers, get to do something that's such a special, unique opportunity to serve at the State Fair Dining Hall. And then to meet so many wonderful people who have been coming to the dining hall for multiple generations, or it's their first time and they've never heard of Swedish egg coffee before, and everyone in between. So it's, and then the part that I love maybe most about the dining hall is that it's also an opportunity for youth development. Youth are the primary people who are doing the waiting on the tables, the serving. And so they get to learn those skills, they get to build relationships across generations, they get to like sweat a little bit, but be very supported by the leaders and whoever volunteers as well. So the State Fair, and that, I think the 25th of August is the first day of the fair, but it might be before then. 24th, okay, good, thank you. I was about to pull up my phone, but thank you, yes. 24th through Labor Day.
Great, and there are opportunities for you to cook, for you to serve.
Cook, serve, prep, be cashier. There's jobs for sitting, stand. A lot of jobs require standing, but there are jobs where you can sit pretty much the whole time. Mm-hmm. There's a morning shift that leaves Salem at like 5:45 in the morning, or you can meet us at the fair and you'll have gotten your tickets. You get free entry to the fair. So some people will drive themselves and then stay after their shift. So you get free access to the fair that way. Word of warning, if you work a whole shift and expect yourself to stay at the fair for 6 more hours, good luck. But a couple of hours, grab a drink, grab some fun food, and enjoy a little bit of a show, that's a really cool opportunity. And then there's an evening one that starts midday and goes until close, which we're working on closing because we are incredibly busy for breakfast, kind of busy for lunch, and then it kind of peters out with dinner because we really specialize in diner food. And then for lunchtime, we have Swedish meatballs that we make from scratch and a few other kind of fun State Fair diner style foods, and then serve that through dinner. And there's lots of memorabilia from 75 years of being open. There's Swedish flags and colors all over the place, and I think it's really fun to celebrate that heritage and also welcome people in who don't share that heritage. So some of our North Minneapolis neighbors who might be,
What's
indigenous,
Swede?
black, that are like, I don't resonate with that at all. Still put on the apron and volunteer and hopefully have good room to express their culture and who they are
Exactly.
through that
Yeah, it
opportunity.
goes vice versa.
Yeah, so that would be all y'all as well. We even let Norwegians serve.
That's generous of you.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
I am a Scandinavian mutt, I would say. I'm some Swedish, some Danish, some Norwegian, and a few other things. So, you know, not even a little bit. No. Yeah. Yeah, so the question was, have you seen a change in your community since George Floyd? Do you mean neighborhood, church, or both? Yeah. I would say yes. Part of the change also is tied up with the pandemic as well. So it's hard to parse out specific causes, but we'll talk some correlation. You know, I don't want to, I'm not sure I'm smart enough to blame anything on anything, which you didn't ask, but I've noticed since the springtime of 2020 that neighbors are a little less likely to answer their doors. And that is literally when we've gone door knocking as our neighborhood organization, and metaphorically, people in their initial interactions have a little bit more distance with one another. And I think that's because of years of a pandemic where we had to stay safe, and a little bit more sense of fear around our community, internally and externally. Yeah. And part of the reality is that there is, the overall numbers are not quite as stark as the news media would have you believe, but there is a fear of carjackings, of other types of violence and crime. And so people are slightly more standoffish at first. And as a little bit of trust is built, there is more of a hunger for authentic community and a willingness to show up than I've experienced in my 5 years and 8 years living over north and 5 years as Salem's pastor. And that has been the case for our neighbors, for Salem, and for the interplay of the two, I would say. And also, people are as busy as ever. So there's a challenge on how do you determine if somebody really values that community. Like, how often does somebody have to show up to what we have for them to be counted as somebody who's like all in? Because somebody would consider themselves all in and desperately longing for the community that they are receiving and show up twice a month, and like, that's all I can do. So how do we change our perspective on how we just celebrate that and welcome people and not expect them to be at every single dang thing, although we have a few folks who do that too, you know. But yeah, so I think there's a little bit more standoffishness, that might be a word, and then once that's broken through, a greater openness and hunger for trusting community and neighbors than ever.
All right.
If you're loud, I can repeat it. Thank you so much. That was too much to repeat, but it was basically how great the neighborhood is around Salem. Yeah, and a long-time connection to there. So thank you for sharing. Yeah. Which reminds me of another connection. Jill, do you remember the specific name? Is it Evenson?
Oh,
Evanson.
Everson, yeah. Arlene, yeah.
Yeah.
Evanson.
Who was a member, who was a, yeah, member here and was was at Salem and as a secretary for years. So. And we got Pastor Van Seen. Oh my gosh, there's just so many. Tell me more if you get them later, But
Yeah,
but,
seems it's meant to be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was something about, it was Jane, right?
yeah.
Something about what you said I think is so powerful, and part of what also attracts me, and I think a lot of people who go to Salem to the Weber Camden neighborhood, is when you live in or spend a lot of time in an underserved community that has fewer resources, is a little bit cut off from parts of the city, that might on the surface feel a little less vibrant or socioeconomically stable, people still live there, and people have to figure out how to make a really flourishing community together. And so they're more creative, they lean on each other more, they know that they need each other. They don't think that they can get by themselves only. And so some of that is out of reality and sometimes even desperation. But that then becomes contagious to those of us who think we can do it ourselves, but still learn from our neighbors, actually we need each other. And what a gift that is. And that's something that is palpable around the Weber Camden neighborhood. And Salem is really lucky to just be able to kind of tap into it and hopefully learn from it. We're not teaching that, we're learning that from our neighbors.
Well, you have just been a joy today, and I think that the partnership will continue to flourish just because of your energy and Pastor Adam's energy and the outreach team and Jill and all these connections. And so we look forward to more, and we look forward to seeing you on July 12th. Judge Eric Hoffer, yeah.
Is that a verbal commitment? Oh, no? Hypothetically?
Was that in italics?
There you
I'm
go,
not
yeah.
sure. Air quotes? Yeah. Yeah.
It's on video.
You'll be a
It's on
judge
video,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
Okay.
Pastor Adam, I'm sure, is doing a wonderful job at Salem as we speak. And I didn't get any hurried voicemails, so I think everything is going smoothly. Or they just thought I was busy.
Okay, you found the church.
Or they don't
Yeah,
need
that's
me.
good.
Yeah.
That's good.
But Pastor Adam and I have known each other since high school. I went to a school dance with his girlfriend at the time, in a platonic sense, but at Edina, you had to be a Edina student to go to the homecoming dance. And so Pastor Adam was dating somebody from Edina, and I went as friends with his girlfriend at the time. And then later, for the dance, that could be anyone, he and I went, he showed me a picture this last week of he and I in the same set of poorly fitting suits at a Sweethearts dance lineup of photos. So ask him about that photo. He was at his parents' house not long ago and said that he took a picture of it and sent it to me. So ask him about that. I was considering sharing it with Jerry and putting it up on the screen there, but he made me swear I wouldn't do that. But I'm telling you about it
Oh,
still.
it would have been fun.
Yeah,
I would have done
yeah.
it, yeah.
Embarrassing Pastor Adam is, I think, one of the things I'm most excited about in our ongoing partnership.
Okay, I think we're in then. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, and God's blessings on your ministry and our ministry together.
Amen.